there's a real satisfaction when you make something and someone loves it.
You know, I like where people come together and help you cook, not just one person in the kitchen.
Your cook is a way of expressing your love to your family.
I just like to share what God has given me. This church was always known for feeding. We always had something to eat.
My mom was a true homemaker. You know, she really was. She didn't work outside the home. Everything came from scratch. You know, I don't remember a lot of box mixes of anything, whether it was the real food or, you know, the desserts. She was a homemaker.
I felt like she just knew so much about things that I would need to know when I left home. Now that she's not here, it's like I wish I had kind of wrote down a lot of things that she told us when we were growing up. You know, even about making different things or about, you know, growing different things. She was a good teacher.
I always liked to be wherever the action was. I'm sure that I have helped her when I was little. Yeah. Our daughter has a little 7-year-old now, and she likes to get in there and make a mess in the kitchen too. There you go.
I learned from my grandparents and my mother and my older sister that made rolls. And so when I started out, I didn't have the confidence, so I'd make her drive all the way and sit in my kitchen. My mother, she died when I was younger. So, you know, I have some memories of her being in the kitchen cooking. But my older sister, you know, they were there with my mother and watched her do some cooking. The rolls were a good fundraiser when my daughter was running for Fall Festival Princess. So we would do that, make rolls and make little sandwiches out of them. People would buy them. Then I thought, well, the roll orders are getting so big, then why don't I teach people how to make them, and then they can make them for themselves.
Country ham is the best. Here, if you've got country ham around and the rolls come out, grab you some ham and put on them fresh rolls. Oh, they're great.
Sister Effie Fields, she would have clinics, and it would be so neat, the clinics, because she would have all the women who were interested. We would come in with our aprons on in the kitchen of Mount Nebo, and she would take about 4 or 5 of us at a time, and she'll tell us step by step.
Yeah, and I know Tracy keeps a lot of photos.
My mother is an old-time cook that didn't use recipes. She just put a pinch of this and a dab of that and so forth. And so it was a little harder sometimes to learn to make the things, doing it her way. When I was younger, she never really wanted me in the kitchen very much because she thought I was messy. But then after I got older, then she was more open to beginning to teach me. Then I started asking her questions about, well, how do you make this and how do you make that? She was 23 when she and my dad married, and then she was 29 when I was born. And she quit work at the underwear factory and stayed home and raised me until I was probably in middle school. I'll say we were economically challenged, and so we ate frugally a lot of the times, but no matter what we had, she always made it really good. Her fried chicken, her homemade biscuits, which I never did quite master. And always we look forward to the stuffing at the holidays. And as my kids came along and started growing up, then they too were interested in the stuffing. And then she developed Alzheimer's later in life, and I realized that I was going to have to master this stuffing if I was going to carry on the tradition. So it took a lot of trial and error, but I think I about have it down now. But I remember you used to come over there with your parents to visitors. But we're not going to tell him that you're coming if you're not coming.
Yeah.
Because he was not happy.
On both sides of my family, we came up from slavery, where we were forced to eat the leftovers, even saving those recipes and still using them today, like with chitlins and a raccoon and groundhog ribs. They're still relevant and we can still cherish that part of our history, but we also don't have to look back and look down on it. All the best recipes either come, I feel like, from my grandpa, my Aunt Crystal, or my mom. Those are the chefs, and I'm just a little sous chef in training.
My sister learned how to cook from my mother and my grandmother. I learned how to cook from watching them and eating, and the food tasted good. I'm from a family of teachers. My father, my mother, my father's sister, my mother's sister, my children, grandchildren. Cooking was not in my line. After I got married and moved from home, I had to learn how to cook to feed the kids and myself.
He's always going to care for you, and he's always going to provide and be there for you. And I think food is just one of his love languages. And so I think that's why I take such pride in it, because it's how I want to show that same love to others.
Families are complicated and life is complicated, but at the end of the day, food is a really specific way of showing people that we love them. For generations, there have been women who their role for the household was to take care of the home, to cook, to grow the food, sometimes to grow the medicine for the family. I find it really interesting the way that women added in their own creativity to those things, like things that could have just been considered rote tasks were actually means of self-expression. I think that gardening is another way that women would tell their stories, and they could, not just follow rules or patterns that were given to them, but kind of find their own way in the garden. And you still get the same result, but it's a more personal result.
Now that they are teaching me, I'm able to teach the little kids here at the church or the young people, getting them in and saying, hey, this is fun to do. Like, you can cook, you can do this. My dad is a pastor, and then having my grandmother here, my aunt here, other cousins and relatives being here, so it's like just one big family and just laughing and having a good time. Another recipe is something that my dad taught, and that was fried chicken. And that really came from my grandmother, which is his mother, so she always cooked us fried chicken.
A lot of our women are out in the community, so that makes a big difference. The role that they play in raising up our young people, so we don't limit our women here. Mount Nebo has always been known for its plentiful food and celebrations. More than anything, if we can put a smile on our face and, authentically love somebody. Because somebody may need a hug, somebody may need a smile, and somebody may need a good old piece of fried chicken.
And then it'll be carried on because somebody else will, feel that love in the meal that you make.
When you use the term housewife, you think you're married to the house. I like homemaker because that's what we try to do, is make our house a home. These old recipes kind of does the same thing.
I think there's just a certain joy to it because you're sharing love with your family.